Because of why I search the deep through endless nights, no time to sleep. The call inside I can't deny. I'll find the light because of why.
Ever look at a currency and just wonder, how is that so strong? Well, today we're diving into a really cool economic puzzle. We're talking about the Brunei dollar, how it stays so incredibly stable, and its secret connection to a major powerhouse. So here's the deal, and it's a simple one on the surface. One Brunei dollar is always worth one Singapore dollar. I mean, for decades, they've been perfectly locked together. But think about it. How does a smaller nation like Brunei keep its currency on par with a massive financial hub like Singapore? That's the real question, and we're going to get into it. All right, so let's get right to it. It all starts with this very special agreement, this financial relationship that's really the key to this whole thing. Yeah, you heard that right. We're talking for over 50 years, since way back in 1967. Thanks to something called the Currency Interchangeability Agreement, you can literally take your Brunei dollars, go to Singapore, and spend them just like they're Singapore dollars, and vice versa. This isn't some new thing. This agreement is incredibly tough. It's survived all kinds of crazy economic shifts around the world. Okay, so when you hear Brunei, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most people, it's oil, right? Lots and lots of it. So you'd think, oh, okay, that's it. The oil money makes the currency strong. Simple. But that's where it gets a little more complicated. I mean, look at this pie chart. Oil and gas are a huge chunk, no doubt, about 40% of the economy. But what's really interesting is that the services sector is actually a tiny bit bigger. So yeah, oil is super important, but it can't be the only thing propping up the currency. Something else has to be in the mix. And this really hits the nail on the head. We all know what oil prices are like, right? They're all over the place. One global event happens and they go up. Another thing happens, they crash. If you tied your entire country's currency to something that unstable, well, it's like trying to build a house on a roller coaster. It's just not going to work. You can't get stability from that. So, if it's not just the oil, what is it? What's the real secret here? Well, the answer isn't actually in Brunei's oil fields. It's in its relationship with its neighbor. We're talking about Singapore. And this currency interchangeability agreement we mentioned, that is the absolute key. But this isn't just some friendly handshake deal. It's a formal, very structured system known as a currency board arrangement. And that's a big deal. It has huge consequences for how Brunei handles its entire economy. All right, so how does this whole thing work? How does it create this, fortress of financial stability? Let's break it down. It really comes down to 3 basic rules, but they're super powerful. Step 1, you just lock the value. 1 Brunei dollar equals 1 Singapore dollar. Done. Step 2, and this is the big one. This is crucial. For every single Brunei dollar out there in the world, there has to be an equivalent amount of foreign money, mostly Singapore dollars, held in reserve. It's a 100% backing. It's not a suggestion, it's a rule. And third, because of this, the money can just flow back and forth between the two countries no problem. No exchange rates to worry about, which is amazing for business and travel. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Brunei's own central bank says it themselves. They say this agreement has been the absolute foundation of their economic stability for a long, long time. It's a system that just plain works. Okay, so we get how it works, but what does this actually mean in the real world? What are the pros and cons? Let's look at what they gain and what they have to give up. The upsides are massive. Think about it. You're tying your money to the Singapore dollar, which is known for being super stable. So Brunei basically gets to import all of that stability. What does that get you? Incredibly low inflation. 0 risk when you're trading with Singapore. That makes everything cheaper for businesses and way, way easier to invest. Get a load of this number. 1.1%. That's the average inflation rate in Brunei for over 40 years, from 1981 to 2023. That is just an incredible level of stability. Most countries would kill for numbers like that. That right there is the grand prize you get from this currency peg. But like with anything, there's a catch. This stability isn't free.
The trade-off is that Brunei gives up control. It can't run its own monetary policy. It can't just decide to raise or lower its own interest rates to manage its economy. Instead, it basically has to copy whatever Singapore's central bank decides to do. It's a huge thing to give up, but for them, it's been worth it.
So this stable setup has been fantastic for Brunei, but the world doesn't stand still, right? Things are changing. And that brings us to the big, looming question. What comes after oil?
Look, the shift away from fossil fuels isn't some far-off idea anymore. It's happening right now. And if you're a country where oil and gas make up 40% of your entire economy, that's a massive risk. It's the big one. What do you do when the rest of the world decides it doesn't need as much of your number one product?
Well, Brunei is well aware of this, and they have a plan. It's called Wawasan Brunei 2035, or Brunei Vision 2035. And the main goal is pretty straightforward. Build a new sustainable economy that doesn't rely so heavily on oil and gas.
But, having a plan is one thing, making it happen is another. If you look at the numbers, the sectors they're trying to grow, things like food, tech, tourism, they're just a tiny sliver of the economy right now. I mean, less than 2 or 3% each. So growing those into something substantial, that's going to be a really long, tough climb.
And that really brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? Brunei did this incredible thing. They used their oil money to create a super stable financial system. The question now is, can they use that stability as a foundation to build a totally new kind of economy before the oil advantage is gone for good?
It's a huge challenge for sure. I'm curious, what do you think? What's the secret to making this work? Is there one industry you think they should bet on? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys think. And there you have it, the mystery of the Brunei dollar solved. Hey, if you enjoyed this explainer, do me a favor and hit that like button, share it with a friend who's into this stuff, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.